A blessed and a wonderful Sunday to all. We are still in our series entitled Different Seasons, Same God. During the first Sunday of the month, we talk about the season of trials. And last Sunday, we talked about the season of waiting. And today, we will be talking about the season of reckoning. For the many years of service before the Lord and with the church, I experienced visiting patients both in the hospital and in different houses. And those individuals that are going through physical ailments several times, I heard the statement, especially from the Bisaya nga mga people. The statement I heard several times is the line that says, "Maningil gyud di ay ang lawas, pastor." Maningil gyud ang lawas. What does it mean by that statement? That line is an idiomatic expression of the Visayan people that tells that a time will come that I have to settle with this account of mine. Like for example, if you lived your life submitting yourself to many different physical strenuous activities when you are young, when you will become old, a time will come that you would need a lot of things to be concerned about yourself because you allowed yourself to go through such many strenuous activities when you were young. Another example is that when you are still very young, you seemingly find yourself to be invincible, that even if you don't sleep early in the night, you wake up too early in the morning, you only have a few hours of sleep, you feel that you are invincible, that you can manage everything. And yet, a time will come that your body would complain. So it becomes a moment of reckoning for you. Well, not only in physical body, but as well for students. Whenever I begin a class, I usually introduce the syllabus. And one of the many things that the students would look for in a syllabus is requirements, course requirements. And whenever they would come across with the papers, the requirements that they have, one of the things that they will usually seek for or look for is the date, the due date. Why? Because the due date is the moment of reckoning for them. So like for example, that class requires 3 reflection papers, 1 maybe a thesis. So the due date for that would be the moment of reckoning. Meaning to say, that's the time that you need to settle every requirement for that particular course. Now in life, there is always a season of reckoning in many aspects. Much more with our moral way of life and our spiritual aspect of living. There is a time of reckoning. This is clearly specified and clearly stated in the Gospels in the book of Matthew chapter 25 verses 14 to 30. Matthew 25, 14 to 30. I'll be using the term reckoning within the idea of settling your account. Okay? And that is clearly expressed in the text that we have today. Matthew 25, 14 to 30. I will read from the NASB 1995 edition. "For it is just like a man about to go on a journey who called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his own ability. And he went on his journey. Immediately the one who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and gained 5 more talents. In the same manner, the one who had received the 2 talents gained 2 more. But he who received the 1 talent went away and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. The one who had received the 5 talents came up and brought 5 more talents, saying, Master, you entrusted 5 talents to me. See, I have gained 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Also, the one who had received the 2 talents came up and said, Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have gained 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one who also had received the 1 talent came up and said, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. And I was afraid and went away and hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is yours. But his master answered and said to him, You wicked, lazy slave, you knew that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have put my money in the bank, and in my arrival I would have received my money back with interest. Therefore, take away the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what he does have shall be taken away. Throw out the worthless slave into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. May the good Lord bless the reading of his word. We see a story where the moment of reckoning took place for the 3 servants who were entrusted by the master with talents. Now take note of this. The word talent in the gospel does not talk about your ability to sing, your capacity to perform something on stage. That's not the talent here. The talent here in the scriptures is a measure of money. Just like what we have today, 1,000 pesos, or what we have $300, like that. It's a measure of money. And 1 talent is really much money, because if you count as to its equivalent, 1 denarius is a 1-day wage. So how many denarius are there in 1 talent? There's about 6,000 denarius in 1 talent. In their time, that would even last for about 20 years or even more years of work for you to have 1 talent. So when the master left and gave them, each of them, a part of entrusting something, 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, all of them would mean much of money. Okay? So this is not about singing or dancing, but this is about something that is entrusted to them in a form of material thing. Now, before we delve in further into the story, I want us to understand the particular context of this parable. This is a parable. A parable is a story that was used by Jesus to illustrate something. Now, one day in chapter 24, one day Jesus and the disciples were in Jerusalem. Inside Jerusalem was the temple that was built by early leaders of Israel. One day they were walking and they passed by the temple, and Jesus said to the disciples, "A day will come that not even a single stone piled up in this temple would be left. All of it will be totally destroyed and will vanish. One day, a day will come that not a single stone piled up on this temple would be left behind. Would be left. Everything will be destroyed." And when he said these words, the disciples understood that he was talking about the end times. He's talking about the last days. He's talking about the judgment day, when all of its creation would really experience the season of reckoning. Okay? So they understood that when Jesus said that line, "A day will come that none of a stone that would be left here in this temple," they understood that he's talking about the end times. And after which they just passed through, they carried in their minds, in their thoughts, what Jesus said. So when they arrived on the other mountain, they settled down, they sat down, and then they asked the Lord, they said, "When will this thing happen? When will it take place? What about? About the thing that you said earlier, that none of the stones in the temple would be left? When will that happen? Usually that's the concern. When there is an event that is going to take place, the number one question that is asked is, when will it happen? Announcement, there will be an ayuda. When will it happen? Okay? So that's the question that they were concerned about. When will this end time take place? When will you come back? When will be the judgment day? That was the concern of the disciples. And then Jesus gave them an answer, but not the exact precise answer that they were looking for, because they were wanting to hear a year, a date, a time, exact precise moment, and yet Jesus did not give it to them. The Lord Jesus Christ, if you look at Matthew chapter 4, after they asked the question, Jesus said to them, there will be signs. It's not for you to know the exact time, the exact day, and the exact year. Nobody in this world would know about it, but it will come. But here are signs that would point to us that that moment is getting nearer. And he gave several signs. If you look at chapter 24, you would see the signs that Jesus mentioned. He mentioned about many will come and claim that they are Christ. That's verses 23 to 24 and verse 5 as well. He said there will be wars, rumors of wars, and nation would go against nation, kingdom would go against another kingdom. There will be famines, earthquakes in various places. He added, Christians will go through tribulation. Many will die, and then many will be persecuted because Christians will be hated because of the gospel of Christ. Another sign that he mentioned here is that there will be lawlessness. It would be rampant around the world, and people's love will grow cold. Added to that, the gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations, verse 14. Verse 15 to 23, the Antichrist will announce himself, and this would be followed by a new world order. The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, stars will fall from the sky. Will it be the end? As far as Jesus' way of stating it, this is not the end. These are not the moments that would tell us it's the end already, but these are signs that would tell us that the end is about to come. Okay? So let's put that in our hearts and minds as we understand the parable in chapter 5, the one that we will be digging in a few minutes. This is the backdrop of it. There is an idea of the end times. In fact, after stating these several signs, he gave a parable, the parable of the fig tree. And what is that parable about? He said, look at the fig tree. When the leaves would come out, when buds would come out, what will it tell us? The presence or the coming out of the buds and the leaves, he said, will tell us that summer is about to come. So it's like that. Through that parable, Jesus is saying that when you see all of these signs that I'm talking about, it would tell us that the end is about to come. So the exact date, the exact hour, date, and year remained unknown to all. And yet Jesus gave them signs that would point that it's about to come. It's about to happen. And furthermore, Jesus shifted his discussion to this particular concern. Because the disciples were so concerned about when will this happen. And Jesus said, you cannot know. These are the signs that would tell you that it's about to happen, but you cannot know. And yet Jesus said, instead of being so concerned about when it will happen, I think we will be concerned, or we must be concerned about something else. What is that? That instead of being so concerned about when will this happen, the believers shall be concerned about the behavior that we would have while waiting for it to happen. Okay? So let's put that in our minds as the main context of the passage that we will be dealing with. It is not about, the concern shall not be about when will this happen. The main concern of the believers, the disciples, the believers, the church today is that how are we behaving while we are waiting for the end time to happen? Because that really matters. Why does it matter? Because the season of reckoning would really happen and take place certainly. And so, we are given with another parable. The parable here in verses 14 to 30 of Matthew chapter 25. And this is the parable of the talents. There are four main characters in the story that serves an illustration to the point that Jesus was making. The first was the master, and then there were three servants. Each of the three servants, they were given talents. The first servant was given 5 talents. So if 1 talent is equivalent to 6,000 denarius, or denarii, then it's much. It's 30,000. Not 6, 12, 18, 20. Yeah. It's like that. It's much. And he was given 5. The second was given 2. The third was given 1. Isn't it unfair? No, it is not. Why? Because number one concern that we shall take note of is that the master has his own prerogative as to how much he would give. But there is a basis for him giving those number of talents to each. The text is very clear. If you look at these earlier verses, look at verse 15. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. Each, take note of this line, according to his own ability. Each according to his own ability, meaning to say, the master assessed their ability and he only gave a corresponding amount that would be appropriate for the person's ability to manage it. Why? Because if the master would give 10 talents to this person who can only manage 5 talents, mabubulilyaso po yun. And the master is not good at it, is not good steward if he will entrust more than what the person can handle. So meaning, the ability that one has in managing is a determining factor on how the master would disseminate his resources. So to one was given 5 because he can manage 5. To the second was given 2 because he can manage 2. That's his ability. And then to the third was given 1. That's why when we think about this reality that we have around us today, we say, why do I have this much only? And why does that guy receive much from the Lord? Well, God knows our ability. He knows our capacity. And there are times He doesn't give us that much as we desire to have because God knew it that we are not able to manage it well. So whatever we have today, it is now dependent on the capacity, the ability that we have to manage. Now that happened here with these 3 servants. When the first servant received the 5 talents, immediately the text tells us that he did something for the talents given to him to multiply. He invested it. He did something that would make the talent that he received more when his master would come back. The second servant also did the same. So the first 2 servants were all commendable with what they did because they invested on something that would multiply what they have. The text introduced the third servant with a but. Okay? Look at verse 18. But he who received the 1 talent went away and dug, and then he hid the talent that was given to him. Take note when there is a word but at the very beginning, if it was a commendation for the first 2 servants, then it would be a comment and negative assessment with the third. What did he do? instead of investing the 1 talent that he received, it's still much money, because the equivalent of that is 6,000 denarii. It's much still. If you convert that with our time today, it's much money, because it is worth about 20 years of wage on a minimum basis of the minimum amount in our city. So it's really still much. And yet, instead of working on ways that he would be able to multiply it, that it would increase in its value, this guy dug a hole on the ground and then hid the talent that was given to him. It is not commendable for the master. What happened? The season of reckoning came. After many years, the master came back. If you invested your resources on something, the number one concern you would have when you are back is that, how much did it earn? You are going to now ask for the ROI, the return of investment. How much will I have out of the amount that I invested? And so the master, when he arrived, he called his servants for the reckoning. He called his servants to settle. The first servant who received 5, he said, "Master, you gave me 5. I received 5. Well, these are words that are repeatedly mentioned in the text. Entrusted, receive. It shows to us really that the master gave something and that they are entrusted with it. They receive it not just for the sake of gifting, but they receive it, and someday they will take account of what was given." Okay? The difference between just purely giving and entrusting is so big. Because when it is just given, meaning to say, the one who gave won't care anymore, or he will not have much care about how you are going to use that, because it was just given. But the term used is entrusted, meaning there is an expectation that you will become wise and faithful in the way you would use it. And this happened. The first servant was called and he said, "Master, you have entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. There are now 10 talents with me." And then what did the master tell him? What was the commendation? The master said in verse 21b, "You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." Take note of that line. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge with many things. The concept here is very clear. Those that could be trusted with little amount will be trusted with more in the days to come. If one cannot be trusted with a little amount, then you cannot expect for more amount, much more, to be entrusted to you. That's clear. And the servant here, if I may really bring it out into the sermon today, when the master said this, he did not get what he invested. He also did not get the ROI. He just said, "Well, you are a faithful servant, and I am entrusting you with much." And you would find out that in this conversation, the interest or the income of that 5 talents, which is also 5, was entrusted again to this person. What does it tell us? Meaning, the fact that this servant increased the 5 to 10, he proved to his master that he could be now trusted with much more than 5. And when the master looked at it and assessed everything, the master said, "You were faithful with a 5. I think I can entrust you with a 10 this time." You following me? So this is actually a moment of stewardship for the servant. Because this is what I have observed. When the master entrusts with a little amount and you show that that's your capacity, when you multiply it, when you use it in a proper way, in the way He wants you to use it, you are actually increasing your ability to manage. Okay? When the master returned and the servant said, "Here are 5 more. So you gave me 5, you entrusted me 5, and now it is 10. Here they are." The master actually was not so concerned about how much it would be when he returns. More than that, his concern is that, how did you use what I left you with? Because how you would use it would determine whether you increase your capacity, your ability, or not. How you would use what has been entrusted to you, how I would use what is entrusted to me, would determine whether I would increase my ability and capacity, or I would just remain as I am when He left me. That is a concern that the master had here. With the second servant, he said, "You gave me, you entrusted 2 to me, now I have 4 on my hands." What did he say to him? Look at what he said in verse 23b. "You were faithful with a few things, I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." It's the same commendation, meaning to say, he is not after the amount as to how much you would give to him. Because what he is after about is how you have increased your ability, your capacity, how you have outgrown your old self to be a better version of you. That's the concern of the master. Because once he sees you and me outgrowing ourselves, it is the moment that he would say, "You have outgrown what you were. I am entrusting you with more." Why? Because I want to see you grow further. I want to see you become even better than what you have become. That's the concern of the master. And now the third servant was called. And he said, his negative perception about the master, he said, "I knew you to be a tough guy. That you sow where you have not, that you would reap where you have not sown. That's your attitude," he said, "and that's why I'm scared of you. And so I just dug a hole and hid your talent, and here it is." And listen very carefully to what the master said. Listen to this line. "You wicked, lazy slave." Is it really that bad to just hide, to keep what is given? Hindi ba pwedeng, okay lang? Why is it called wicked here, that particular act? Because it violates the intention of the master for his people. What he intended for them to experience, he was intending to see them outgrow themselves. And that's the same thing that you and I should experience. That we outgrow our old self. And that calls for an unwavering stewardship of whatever God has given to us. Now listen, how are we going to connect this with that backdrop or the context of this narrative that talks about the end times? The unknown time of the coming back of the Lord. If I may summarize everything that I said, I shall say the unknown time of reckoning calls for an unwavering stewardship towards productivity. I'll repeat that line. The unknown time of reckoning calls for an unwavering stewardship towards productivity. The concern of the disciples was, "When will this happen, Lord?" But Jesus said, that should not be your concern. Your concern, more than the when, is how you are going to live your life as good stewards, that you would remain productive as you anticipate for my coming. Okay? Are you following me? So the main concern of the Lord is that we, His children, will behave in such a way that we would be faithful to Him as good stewards, that we may remain productive as we anticipate for His coming. Productive in what aspect? In all aspects of life. He wants you and me to be productive in sowing seeds for the gospel. He wants you and me to be productive with whatever resources He gave to you and me. He wants all of us to be productive in building relationship with people around us. He wants us to outgrow our old self, that the better version of us would emerge. And then after which, He would entrust again with better things and much more responsibility. And we outgrow our old self again until we become better and better and better, and until we are totally honed into the likeness of Jesus. That's what He wants you and me to experience. That is why He didn't like what the third servant did. This guy was not a good steward as he anticipated for the coming of his master. We don't exactly know when Jesus would come. You know the disadvantage if you know when your master would come. If I know when the master would come back, usually, nagpapariwara habang malayo pa. Yun yung attitude normally matagal pa yung babalik. So, okay lang. When the cat is away, the mouse will play. Parang ganun na attitude ang lumalabas. Okay lang, matagal pa naman yun. Di bale, magbabalik loob lang ako kung malapit na siyang dumating. So, di ba? That's the common attitude. And what Jesus is saying is that it's better if the time of reckoning will remain unknown. Why? Because it calls for every one of us to live our lives faithfully towards productivity day after day after day after day. Kasi if we are living like that, the more we live with faithfulness with our Master, and the more we position ourselves towards productivity in life. God wants you and me to outgrow our old self, and that we become more and more productive before He comes back. That by that moment, when the moment of reckoning takes place, we are ready to face Him. And what will He say? Will He tell us, "You wicked and lazy servant"? We don't like to hear that line. What we want to hear is the statement, "You have been faithful with little things. I am entrusting you with much bigger things. Come into the joy of your master." Why? Because we have exercised stewardship and we have outgrown our old self, that we have been positioned to receive greater things in life. Look at your seatmate and tell the person, God wants you to be productive. Right? And this has ramifications and effects on our day-to-day life. I think we shall ask today, Lord, am I living my life in a productive way as far as your kingdom is concerned, as far as the gospel is concerned, as far as the relationships that I have is concerned, as far as the material things that you entrusted to me are concerned? Am I living my life in a productive manner? Because that's what your master intends. Why? Because the more we practice good stewardships in these areas of life, the more we are honed into the image of Christ. The more we outgrow ourselves, the more we become better in life. And that's what God wants to see from you and me. God bless you all, and good morning.